Welcome to a true spiritual adventure story like the world has never known. Volume 2, Rise of the First World Teacher, with your host, Dr. James Yogadhi Weldon. This is Dr. James Weldon speaking to you from Heavenly Mountain, our community dedicated to helping individuals develop higher consciousness in Boone, North Carolina. I'm also known as Yogadhi, and we're going to continue our discussion of my second book, Autobiography, First World Teacher. And at this time, I've gone to my first advanced program with the founder of the Art of Living, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Really had an amazing time. I anticipated potentially meeting him for a very, very long time ago, and made a major breakthrough on that program. Any of you that had the benefit of taking any of these programs, they're really quite amazing. And during that, I touched a new consciousness at this time on the course, a aloneness, a deeper awareness where, from my point of view, nothing exists except divinity. You know, I wonder, is that what he was talking about when he answered my question and responded to me, are things becoming clear? Or is there a much deeper awareness unfolding, something different? We learned during that program a new methodology for deepening our consciousness called hollow and empty. This new practice really fascinates me because it's different from anything I'd ever seen before. And as a result of it, I felt a new clarity coming. And after that program, the founder of the Art of Living, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, comes in and he leads us through a slow chanting session and morning meditation. And this morning, he shows how that singing can be a deep breathing technique as well. Spread out much longer, and it leads automatically into a meditative state. And during that time, there was no real effort to meditate at all. Something automatically stills my mind and breath, and meditation just happens. You know, and he said this week, during the course, something quite mysterious. He said, look at me and you'll find no one at home. And I ponder, what does that mean? If no one is home in awareness, then who dwells there? No one? Everyone? I don't know. And I'm beginning to understand that a spiritual teacher, a spiritual master, is like a vast ocean. Each person can come to that ocean and really take what they want, whatever they can carry away, depending upon the size of container of awareness that they bring to that space. One open heart may be transformed, whereas another may find almost nothing. Almost nothing. I find it hard to believe that someone can find absolutely nothing being around such a powerful person. Another question also nagged in my mind. On the first page of my manuscript, I showed him I wrote something. I wrote the following words just before we met in his room that one day. And I said, Dear Sri Sri, I wrote this story out of love for the great gift of grace I mysteriously received many years ago. And I would be honored beyond all words if you would give me some of your words to include, perhaps as a forward in the book. And then they were saying the statement, which is common with that organization, Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev basically means it's a statement which says, may the divine awaken in you. And when I showed him the composition, he read my words, but he didn't say anything. And I was really surprised. Clearly he saw my desire, but said nothing. And I wondered why. Then a strange idea came to me. Perhaps he'd already given me what I want. Maybe he provided the forward for this work even before I wrote my request when we met that first evening. And my mind really reeled at the possibility. And I wondered, oh, it can't be. How could anyone know my heart and my mind and respond to my desires before I even voice them? Is it possible for a living person to be this close with another? And immediately I go to the person who records the talks here and requested a copy of Sri Sri's first lecture. as I wait, I realize I have no idea even how long that talk was, or even what it contains, because that day, actually, when he began to speak on that first day, I really lost all sense of time. And my mind is really surprised by the idea that he might be speaking of my story when he wrote about all our life is like a novel. And I actually stopped listening and went into an empty space. And then the next day, the meeting was over that day. It basically takes about a day to get the tape. In the meantime, I wonder, what does the recording really contain? Is there more that I did not hear? Finally, I receive a copy. As I listen, I'm really shocked again. It seemed to me as if hours had passed during that meeting, but he only had spoken a few paragraphs. He comes into the room, greets everyone, ends with a few paragraphs about our life being like a novel. And this is really incredible. I'm sure I was there for hours, but apparently not. It takes me a few minutes to transcribe the whole thing. I edit a few words to make it more readable, and I carry the transcript with me, waiting for the opportunity to determine if I can include it as a forward. And during a break, my chance comes up, and I walk up to Sri Sri, and I say, I have a copy of your talk the first evening. May I use your words as a preface or a forward in my book? And he nods and says, yes. And I say, may I include your picture as well? And he says, yes. It's just like that. In 10 seconds, it's done. One way or another, it appears that Sri Sri fulfilled this personal desire even before I really admitted that desire to myself. How startling I find that. Okay, I realize this is how things work here. No intermediaries, no one is in charge, it's just me and Sri Sri. I'd never imagined having a relationship with a spiritual teacher, a master, could be so matter of fact, so deeply personal. It is as if he's only here for me. And the last evening, Sri Sri talks about the past. And he says, you think we are not connected, that we have not known each other before. You know, we meet and pass and exchange pleasantries like new acquaintances meeting each other for the first time, but it is not so. These are only on the surface. We have been together many times before. Many times we have known each other, and sometimes you remember. And when Sri Sri says, some of you remember, of course, it's so obvious now that, you know, we have known each other before. How else could he affect me so deeply? But have we known each other in this life? A flood of ancient memories arises in my mind. Suddenly I feel as if I'm turning around to view the most beautiful sunset imaginable. I'm blinded by the possibility. Many events in my life connect before me like tiny threads of a vast tapestry. The threads converge into one mighty tapestry. Something new stands before me. During my lifetime, many revelations have come. I remember at this point in my life, I thought it was many births and deaths, but I do remember some of those in Tibet and America and India and Europe and the Middle East, Far East. I do remember some of that. And I remember this cycle of my life and this birth. As a baby, I cried out to God again and again. At 5 years of age, my first vision of dancing in ecstasy surrounded by my friends with drums pounding. I dance into the night feeling so free. During the last few days, I stepped into that living vision again, way back from my early childhood. I know the place of the vision of my childhood, and it is here in this little hotel room. Now I'm the drummer and my friends are at my side again. About the age of 10, I forget my connection with the divine. I lost it. And at 15, I become really desperate with the illness of my father, and I'm crying out to God. And there's an awareness that comes to me that I really can't describe. At this course in Pittsburgh, I begin to feel that presence again. it's here. You know, in my youth is a desperate search to regain my connection to that awareness. When I throw myself into religion in high school and, you know, have that experience of, I guess, speaking in tongues, I feel the presence of that again. You know, I called it Christ, and it seemed to say to me, keep looking, you'll find me. In college, there's the craziness of drugs that I go through. You know, I'm thrown out of my body. You should read those episodes, pretty crazy. This is the first book, and I'm making this one a second one because it's really important. This is a whole new separate, really in a real sense, a whole new life in a sense. Something is there when I'm tossed out into this experience, you know, when I was using drugs, and gives me an experience of a oneness that actually at that time kept me from going crazy, mad. And there's no doubt that I feel that oneness again stronger than ever here on this program. One day in my 21st year, as I'm talking to a friend about meditation, something just comes over me and I feel that unity again. And I learned meditation and then teach that meditation to many people, you know, many thousands, and that eventually gained the benefit of that. At each step in my progress, clear experiences always come at a critical point in my life to show me that this is the way I should go. And during this week at the Holiday Inn in Pittsburgh, I have many new experiences, and these experiences say the same thing. I've come home, and this is the place I should be now. When Sri says to me, we've been together many times before, and some of you remember, he looks over, looks at me kindly, and I recall an experience repressed, you know, that I had 20 years ago. One morning, I'm meditating in my room down from the hall from Marshy in Switzerland. And I turn towards Marshy's room in Switzerland, in my mind with tears in my eyes, and suddenly in that experience, the walls become transparent. This is actually a airplane that I'm slipping into. And to my surprise, seated on a couch, apparently in the next room, I see a person who turns to me suddenly to face me. It's a young man, and he stands before me with long black flowing hair, dressed in shimmering robes, garlanded with flowers. And as he begins to sway in the rhythm to the music, he holds his hand over his head in a particular way, a particular pose, and dances in ecstasy. You know, as I watch him in awe in this experience, so many years ago, you know, rays of white and blue light are just arcing off in direction. No, this vision was real and has ever come to me like that before. And my mind frantically at that time, was seeking for a foothold, kind of stabilize myself because of the awesome experience. And a huge wave of consciousness in that experience rose before me, and I literally was shaking in fear. And I fall down in amazement at that experience because at that time I felt I'm going to die here because this being I see is actually going to annihilate me. And I was terrified. This was 17 years ago. You know, I'm crying, he's coming, he's coming. What can I do? And I say, stop, I'm not ready. And my mind cries out, and I see a face, fire of energy and a fear rises in my chest, and my heart pounds. And perspiration at this time is literally pouring from my body. All these years, I've been growing stronger. And I learned to stand in the torrent of that spiritual fire. Read the earlier chapters. Tears still roll down my face, but now they're tears of joy. And I see the face I pushed from my mind so long ago. Now I say to that experience, I'm ready, come on. For 17 years here, 17 fragments of that vision had returned. Sometimes I see it in meditation, sometimes I saw it in dreams, sometimes during singing, chanting. And when Sri said to me here, we have been together many times before, he then looked, you know, and he said, and some of you remember. I remember the face that I saw step out of Marcy's room towards me long ago. It was the face of Sri Sri as a young man. And I felt that energy then, and I feel the same energy this week in Pittsburgh. Long ago, in an experience that I was told was the finest level of this creation, being stood behind me in a crystalline form of light that came back later. This is several days later. And that being really gave me a gift of grace, something which I did not understand called Ritambhara Pragya, that seemed to guide and unfold me, fold gradually, actually now for 17 years. But I really never knew what that was, who that being was. I've been asking in my mind this week, is it you, Sri Sri? I've been asking this week, but it's really a question that I was afraid to ask. And I didn't actually know if I was ready to ask this question. Should I ask him? I don't know if I can even take the answer. If he says no, I might have to keep looking elsewhere, and I don't want to look elsewhere. This is where I belong, I'm feeling. I've come to the end of my questions. No more questions, I'm fulfilled. Through the years in my life, perhaps in your life too, you know, a mysterious being, a presence, had come to me many times. Who this being is remained a mystery. And I concluded the answer to my question of who that presence was actually would remain unknowable. To me, it was such a great mystery, yet I accepted that conclusion, unknowable. And I'm satisfied with the subtle relationship that I'm feeling, the God that I have. I say, that's enough. If I say it was Sri Sri, people will look at his body and say, it is him. It's that body. I don't want people to make that mistake. Honestly, the one that I adore is bigger than anyone's life. This revelation is even bigger than the life of the spiritual master. I think. All I can say is that when I look at this one, I see the life behind all lives somehow shining clearly, but in a very, very personal way. And I scarcely believed that such a thing is possible. But it's true. As time goes on, his words to me, is it becoming clearer, will set the direction of my life and drive me to finish the story. You know, all the Sanskrit messages in the night, the spiritual visions, all the climaxes, all the anticlimaxes, you know, led me on to this conclusion. Where it will end, if it ever ends, I don't know. But it's so fantastic. On the first page of this book, I quote from a poem that I wrote long ago. And I also say that we've been together many times in my little poem. And these are the same words that Sri Sri used to help me remember. It's so odd that even with so many experiences, I still don't remember my entire relationship with this master. A few fragments have come through here and there, but that's enough. But I know that this relationship now is ancient. Perhaps this is the clarity that will come. Maybe it won't come. For now, for me, it doesn't matter. At least I have found the one, capital one, that can guide me home. I could only laugh at the secret journey. You know, what a drama, what a comedy it is. The wonder, the grace, the mischief of it all. I now see that the greatest revelation of all still awaits to unfold. You know, and this work that I'm speaking about is the story of a child's love for God. A love that calls to the highest and challenges that one to come and reveal the truth. I searched all these years and came back to my first vision now as a child. And I'm thinking, it's true. It's true. Listen to your heart, and you will hear, my friends, these words are true. Sri Sri said to me this week, look at everything in your life. Look at all the ups and the downs, the climaxes, the anticlimax. Isn't it so interesting? Isn't it? Something new happens, something good, something bad, and something wonderful, amazing. It's a great drama. And that is it. Wow. So let's continue on to chapter 3 in book 2 of my autobiography, what I passed through. As usual, there's a poem that begins this. The title of the poem is, Then Life is a Teaching. Protect us from the thieves about, lest they steal our hearts away. I know this madness. This once was me, thinking I could escape from my own mind in a dark world. Then I reached out, turning my head, and looked within. A little time, a little practice, and now, like some mad miner that struck a gold vein, I see the pure and just. In that mine, it pays and it pays. There seems to be no end, like a mountain snow spring. Cool and fresh is the endless joy that flows on and on. So after this Pittsburgh course, a few of us escort Sri Sri to the airport. If you've made some of those trips, they're really fun. And he's off to England for another program and then off to India. It goes on and on. He's ever moving, yet he brings stillness wherever he goes. And as we walk toward the departure gate, I consider my life and I see such a divine truth unfolding over time with such simplicity and beauty. We sit together, laugh and joke and wait for his departure, like a group of children embarking on an adventure. And my close friend, David Longnecker, who was actually the instructor on my first Art of Living course, gestures and invites me to take a seat by Sri Sri on his right. It has taken a long time for me to come here. I had waited 44 years now, all of my life, to find this seat and fulfill my childhood dreams again. Now somehow we're together, me and my new spiritual family, to have more fun. And I see Sri Sri surrounded by my many new friends. And I remember this is just the renewing of an old relationship. And Sri Sri jokes with the group, and he's drinking a little beverage. And the closeness is so strong. I feel his words, his every breath, his every movement is like my own movement. We're that close, one being. It's amazing. Who would believe that it's possible unless they're living it? I know now that my future work is to feel this close with everyone. And as he shifts in his seat unconsciously, so do I. He raises his arm and my arm actually reacts like that. He takes another sip of his drink. But I also feel the beverage wetting my lips, feeling thirsty in the process. But I'm not going to leave the seat I'm found here. And I wonder, is this how it's going to be? Feeling, sensing, and always becoming closer, not only with this great teacher, Sri Sri, but with everyone around me. What would it be like, truly, knowing the fears of everyone? Yes, I might feel their desperation, but on a deeper level, I can experience the great love hidden within everything. What about the feeling of, difficult to describe, of all-knowingness that I sometimes touch? I wondered how far this could unfold. Will it unfold in this life? I feel it growing, realizing there are many stories yet to tell. And suddenly I feel a touch on my arm. And the Sri Sri is talking to someone quietly. He's passing his cup to me. He was talking and then he gave me his cup. And no one notices, but he also must have felt me also, knowing my thirst as well. You know, such a simple act, and as an act, shows me again what we will become. We will serve everyone simply by becoming one with all and knowing effortlessly the hidden joy in their hearts. How can such a simple act say so much? Everything about you, Sri Sri, appears to be a teaching. Looking at the cup that he gives me, I see that it's not empty. And there's two shining drops are sitting on its white surface. And as if by some hidden force, the drops fall and they merge together. And smiling and enjoying this gift I receive, I raise the cup and drink those drops. And then Sri Sri looks at me with a penetrating stare. You know, the force of his awareness shocks my mind. There are no words, but something is communicating. I feel I should understand and remember something, and I'm wondering, what can it be? You know, what can it be? Suddenly the meaning becomes clear to me. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, my friends, but this is what I'm experiencing at that time. You know, I was born full, as we all are. But my life had become dry and empty without divine love. All that time, that divinity is still within me. All that time, my needs were known and met with great care, but I didn't realize it. Without that divineness, sadness rose in my life, bringing desperation. I really felt desperation. And crisis after crisis pushed me until I was ready to leave my old life and begin the path of self-realization. After some time, I'm ready, and even without knowing, something great was passed to me. I was given a vision and a great gift of love, but I don't know what it is. In that revelation, there are two drops of life on an ocean of light, radiating compassion and love. I awoke at that time, I'm talking about 1976, but yet again, I returned to sleep of ordinary consciousness. Many years passed, only a moment in the eternity of time, really. And now, in an ordinary airport, under the most extraordinary circumstance, I hold the cup of the gift that I was given, passed to me by something timeless. You know, that cup is now empty, but it's full. You guys, do you understand this? If you've taken the program Hollow and Empty. I look at the cup and see those drops, but they become one. I now see and remember that oneness. I can't deny it. The truth is now becoming clear. My cup is filled and I drink again. Just before we leave the airport, I ask him about teaching. And he looks at me for a moment and falls into a reflective state. And after a moment, he looks at me with compassion and says softly, teaching. Your life is a teaching. I'm thinking, yes, Sri, it's true. My life is a teaching. And I'm so amazed at this simple truth. The closer I come to myself, the deeper the mystery becomes. If this is true, and my life is a teaching and a window to our higher life, then I only ask for one thing. This is my prayer for you, my dear friends, and the whole world. There are many drops of limitless life about me. We're living in a world of living beings that are trapped in the prison of their mind. There are many who are really full of wisdom, but they cannot see in this place, in this world. The way out of this is not clear. And like me, their life is dry, and they are desperately trapped in this small place without real joy. They must first unlock that door and gradually, in time, dance to the love they find there in whatever way is appropriate, and know that oneness. And I only ask to be given the chance to enter that place with them, hold up the cup, the light, the breath that I've been given, and offer it to all. May the key to the love that I've been given be passed to all I meet. Only then, together we'll be free. What can I say? So let's end this segment something really powerful. The second book of mine, my autobiography, on the rise of the first world teacher. Namaste. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us in our YouTube channel, books, podcast episodes on living the enlightened life, and autobiography with your host, Dr. James Yogadhi Weldon.